I'm going to be showing you some of my best tips and tricks on how you can instantly become more powerful in Hogwarts Legacy. These things are going to allow you to be more proficient in combat and manage to get through the game a little bit more easily knowing some extra knowledge. Firstly, we're going to cover combos and dueling feats. So you may know that in the game certain spells combo particularly well with certain other spells during combat, and a lot of these can be discovered through the dueling feats system, which you will see on the middle right hand side of your screen when you enter combat. Now, depending what creature or beast or enemy that you are actually fighting with, these dueling feats will be custom tailored to that particular enemy, and it will be a combination of spells or ancient magic that will make you perform particularly well when fighting against this foe in the future. Now, some of them can be a little bit tricky to pull off, especially earlier on in the game when maybe you don't have access to all of the spells, but once you do have all of or most of the spells in the game, and you've got some little upgrades which I'm going to cover here in a moment, such as the talents, then this is really going to help you to overcome certain enemies and get some really good knowledge on how you can instantly defeat these much better. So some of the ones I've picked up along the way are Glacius with either Defendo, which is the cutting spell, or Confringo, which is of course the fire spell. If you use Glacius with Defender, it will slice the enemy and do a huge amount of damage, and if you use Confringo, it will explode them and again shatter the ice, doing a huge amount of damage. It is worth noting as I go through these combos that the spells I'm talking about can also be upgraded through the talents, which I will touch on in just a moment's time, but that can make these combos even more devastating during combat, so do bear that in mind as well. Now, the next one is going to be Transformation on an Animagus. When they transform into the animal, usually it's a wolf, if you use your transform spell on them, they will turn back into human form. Now, this can stop them jumping around as much, it can make them easier to kill, and it means you don't have to kill the same enemy twice, so this can be really, really useful. Of course, if you upgrade the transform spell, you can turn an enemy into an explosive barrel, but if you use it on the Animagus, this will again turn them back into the human form if they have already transformed, instead of the explosive barrel. Now, Dugbogs again can be quite difficult even in later game, they are pretty tanky, so one of the main things that you can do is Levioso when they have their tongues out, and then either Defendo to cut into them and do a large amount of damage, or what you can do is dodge past them when you get the red circle above your head, and then use the pulsar to flip them over onto their back. This will leave them exposed to having a higher amount of damage, which you will see indicated by the gold damage numbers on screen. Now, certain poachers will cast the Fire Whirlwind when you are fighting them. One of the dueling feats you will get when fighting these is to Expelliarmus them or disarm them as they are casting this. So what you will need to do is listen out for the audio cue and the animation of them doing it. They kind of do their wand in a whirlwind formation, and this is going to be really good if you do manage to hit them with an Expelliarmus during this, because it will make them cast that spell onto themselves and deal a large amount of damage, so certainly a very useful one. Now, these are just a few of the ones that I've come across. Like I said, there is plenty more in the game. If you just look at the right hand side of your screen whenever you enter combat, it will show you some of the best ones and best combos that you can do. So you definitely want to take advantage of that and try to remember some of the combos when fighting further foes. Now, some combos in the game, such as disarming an enemy and then throwing their weapon back at them, this you will see with the Goblin Loyalists among other enemies, and this is a particularly useful ability, but it is something that you will need to have a talent upgrade for. So if you go in and look at your talents, if we go onto the core section in the middle here, the way to unlock that ability is to actually go ahead and get the talent down the bottom here, which is Ancient Magic Throw Expertise. This is where Ancient Magic Throw catches and throws disarmed enemy weapons. So if you use Expelliarmus on an enemy to disarm their weapon, you can then pick that weapon up, throw it back at them and deal a large amount of damage, again leaving them vulnerable after the attack for subsequent attacks to deal extra damage. Now, while we're on the subject of talents, these are a hugely beneficial part of the game, and obviously many of you will have discovered some of the talents in the game, probably used a lot of them. Now, you can get things like healing potions have a greater effect, and there's actually 2 of those. You can get increased spell swaps so that you can just quick swap between those during battle, and those are really useful, but they're what I would call utility. You shouldn't overlook them, but there is certain ones that are really going to help you during battle. Now, the first one that I would recommend you get early doors is the Basic Cast Mastery. This is where basic cast impacts reduce spell cooldowns. So it's essentially going to mean you can use your active skills or your active spells way more often because of this. In every fight you're in Hogwarts Legacy, you're going to need to cast some basic attacks to get your combo meter up for ancient magic, and in between when you have your other spells on cooldown. So having this talent will really help you to use your active skills more often and make the combat much more fluid. Now, the next one here is Basic Cast Airborne Absorption. This is a really good one because it means basic cast impacts on airborne enemies contribute more to the ancient magic meter, and one of the most powerful attacks in the game is of course the ancient magic, so the more meter progression we can get on this during a fight is going to be hugely beneficial and is certainly something worth spending a point on. Another one that can just increase your damage here is Stupefy Expertise. This will just mean that Stupefy actually deals direct damage on impact as well as stunning the enemy, so that's another nice one that I've picked up. Of course, in the spells tree here you can upgrade whichever spells you use the most. You can see I have all of them except 2 here because I'm not often using Depulsor and Descender in combat. I more often use Accio, so therefore I've gone for some of the other spells. And when you do have access to all 4 of those quick slots, most of these spells, if not all of these, are a really good investment for a skill point, as they can mean some of those combos we talked about towards the beginning of the video, as well as the regular cast of these attacks, are much more powerful and do a lot more damage. And things like here where you can Leviosa multiple enemies at once can be really handy, because pretty much every fight you're going to be in Hogwarts Legacy you are going to be outnumbered, so these are all really good upgrades and certainly worth the points. If you have got the Dark Arts talents, the Unforgivable Curses, these particular ones are super useful. I have covered this in a bit more depth, particularly in yesterday's video here on the channel, which I will leave linked on the end screen of today's video for you if you do want to check it out. I would certainly recommend it if you want to know more about the Dark Arts talents here, so I won't spend too much time covering on this, but essentially what you're able to do is with Avada Kedavra Mastery, the Killing Curse will kill all cursed enemies, and you can upgrade some of the regular spells like Expelliarmus to also apply a curse to an enemy, as well as Stupefy here as well. And then you can get other upgrades such as Blood Curse here, which will mean that when you deal damage to one cursed enemy, it will damage all cursed enemies, so that can be really effective at clearing out larger groups. And then of course you can upgrade the Unforgivable Curses as well, so lots of really good stuff. The main thing is getting as many curses as possible, cursing as many enemies as you can, and then Avada Kedavra to kill multiple 5, 6, 7 enemies all at once. Now again, the stealth talents can be really useful in this game. Particularly I went for the Human Demiguise, which allows you to sprint whilst in Disillusionment, and I've also gone for Petrificus Totalis Mastery, which means you get an area of effect that can impact multiple enemies. This is really great for clearing out encampments, particularly the poacher ones, and has been a really fun feature for me in the game. If you're not so much into the stealth side of things, then you could save your points and put these into spells elsewhere, but I've certainly enjoyed using these ones. And finally, the Room of Requirements. This depends on something we're going to touch on in just a moment's time, which is how much you use your potions and plants in combat, but I would certainly recommend getting at least this top right one, which is Noxus, which is where the venomous tentacular attacks deal additional damage and they break enemy shields, which can be super useful, particularly if you don't have one of the spells you need on your hotbar. Of course, the Unforgivable Curses can also break through any shields, but again, it's like having an ally in a battle that can break through shields and make them vulnerable to all attacks, so this is a really good one. You can also get upgrades for the Mandrake, which will increase the damage and duration of the effects of it, and the Chinese Chomping Cabbage, which duplicates everyone that you throw to make 2 appear, so this again can be really good, depending on what you prefer to use. Now finally, you can upgrade your potions on the left side of this tree. Some particularly good ones here are the Thunder Brew Potency, which increases the range and damage of the Thunder Brew potion. If you haven't used the Thunder Brew yet in combat, try it out. It's a lot of fun. It works really well. Now something else that you can get here as well, if you are finding enemy shields to be particularly a nuisance, is the upgrade to the Maxima Potion, which will mean that Maxima Potion causes attacks to have additional increased damage and break enemy shields, so you can just basic attack and break down those shields as well. So another thing alongside the Venomous Tentacular upgrade that can be really good for just crunching through those shields. I'm thinking particularly combat arenas or when you're fighting multiple enemies, that can be really useful. And also the Edurus Potion Potency, which means that you are invulnerable and you deflect projectile attacks back to enemies. This can be really good, particularly early on if you've not quite got the hang of the dodging system yet, or if you just want to be able to stand and tank some attacks. This can be quite fun to use, use. So it certainly depends what your playstyle is, but don't neglect your talents because they can give you a massive power boost all throughout Hogwarts Legacy and combat. Now the next thing that you need to look at to increase your power in Hogwarts Legacy and make you more proficient in combat is going to be the traits here. Now these can be accessed from the loom inside the room of requirements, and what they will allow you to do is increase certain things in the game. So for example, as you can see on the piece I currently have equipped here, we have Ancient Magic Focus 3. This is significantly increased Ancient Magic meter fill rate. Now, like I spoke about here and I'm going to touch on in a moment, Ancient Magic is super useful in this game. It's very powerful even from the early game, so having a trait like this is really good. Now, if you are in the early to mid game, you might not have level 3s available, so the level 1 or 2 variations, whichever you have available, will still work and will still increase your power a lot. You will need the materials to apply these, so things like Puffskein Fur for the level 1s. For the level 2s, you're looking at Diricol Feathers. And for the level 3s, you're looking at Kneasel's Fur. Again, yesterday's video, I did cover how you can get hands-on with all of these early doors if you do want to set yourself up for success with that. But these are going to be really useful, and often people sleep on these in the game. Of course, you have your Unforgivable Curses, which is super powerful anyway, but these are going to really help you to improve some of your regular spells. So, for example, Explosive 3, significantly increased damage with Bombarder. This really gives you a huge damage boost to Bombarder. Same here with Defender, Expelliarmus, etc. So for whatever spell setup you use the most, I would recommend getting traits. Now, there is different traits you can get, for example, Concentration, which will greatly increase the damage of all damage spells. This is a great one to have on if you just want to switch out spells and you're still maybe learning which are your favourites, but it won't give as big a damage boost than a specific one. So for example, Explosive or Destructive, they will give a bigger damage boost but only to that individual spell. So again, you can cater your traits to your playstyle and whatever suits you to make you more powerful. One that I really like is Ancient Magic, as this greatly increases the damage from Ancient Magic. This paired with the Ancient Magic Focus, you can see how you can fill up the Ancient Magic meter more quickly and then deal more damage from it. It can become super powerful very quickly. Now finally, I want to touch on the Ancient Magic and particularly increasing your Ancient Magic meter. This is going to be done by finding these icons across your map, which are going to be the Ancient Magic hotspots. Now what you will need to do is head over to these and complete a certain trial or challenge, and once you have done so, if you head into your exploration tab, you can see at the top here from the Collect Ancient Magic Traces challenge, once you do hit a milestone with these, you will be able to collect your rewards. Remember, you do need to collect rewards from challenges in this game to actually see the benefits. You can't leave them unclaimed or you won't get that reward. Once you do claim it, these will increase your Ancient Magic total bar by 1 per time. So right now I have 4 available as I have 2 additional ones, and I'm working towards getting that 5th and final one here. We are currently 7 out of 12. These are super useful, and if you can at least get the first one early on in the game, it is going to give you a massive power advantage. And like I said, they do give you a huge damage boost when you use these against particularly some of the trickier foes. So having this early doors will really make you more powerful very quickly. So hopefully these tips and tricks will help you to instantly feel more powerful in Hogwarts Legacy, whether you knew some of them already or whether it's maybe a reminder on some things that you might have forgotten to do, especially things like the Duelling Feats. I wish I had known that earlier about comboing those up and then using them against the same type of enemy in the future, as it does deal extra and additional damage, which is really nice. If you have enjoyed the video, please do drop me a like down below, as it massively helps to support me and my content. And if you do want to see more Hogwarts Legacy tips, tricks and guide videos, then make sure to drop a subscribe to the channel down below, as there is plenty more on the way. Other than that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I will catch you again very shortly on a brand new upload. Take care and peace.